we're talking about, should they protect him? Is he their franchise quarterback? This all assumes that they're all in with Brock. But I think when Jed York said this offseason that the Niners were like fully prepared to give Brock Purdy a huge contract, I don't think they were anticipating this season. And the problem with this season is it keeps getting worse. It's not getting better. The Rams game was awful. And this past game against the Dolphins was kind of embarrassing too. Both of them ended with late picks from Brock. So, is he costing himself money? Is his stock dropping in your eyes? And what are you seeing in these last couple of games that sort of gives you pause?
Well, I mean, okay, there was a play in this game that I seriously would love to ask Brock about. It was the 2nd and 6 first quarter pass to Juwan Jennings. There was no tipped ball. There was no defender in the way. He had an open passing lane. Jennings was not that far away, and he bounced it. And Jennings dove for it and almost made the catch, but it was ruled incomplete, and it was incomplete. And it was a 2nd and 6 layup for an NFL quarterback, and he bounced it. So I kind of wonder.
On it. It was like a sinker.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a changeup.
Yeah,
like a changeup that just kept sinking, and then and they just had nothing on it. So it's like that's the first time I've seen him just not really let it rip and shoot it out there. I mean, that didn't look like Brock. So I kind of wonder, what is the shoulder pain situation? What is the elbow? How is he feeling? His deep ball, in my opinion, in the last 3 or 4 games has hung. Some of it's been wet weather, snowy weather, whatever. So maybe cold conditions, whatever. But his deep ball seems to be hanging. His deep ball accuracy seems to be waning. This ball on 2nd and 6 to Jennings should have been absolutely lasered right in there, fired between the 1 and the 5. And instead, Jennings had to dive for it and didn't catch it. So that play makes me wonder about the arm health of Brock Purdy. But the other issue, and the first issue, is the beginning of the game. The Niners come out, they get to 3rd and 1, and they run Patrick Taylor. They can't get 1 freaking yard on 3rd and 1. And then
I was surprised they didn't do a quarterback sneak on that play. Like that,
yeah.
the success rate in that play is 100%.
And then Shanahan, I mean, seriously.
Punting.
Wait, why are you not challenging it there? Now, if we're going to play this game real, then you got to know that you can challenge any play. Remember Philadelphia NFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That the announcer said, it looked like Taylor got it. It looked like Taylor got it. And instead, it's the first drive of the game, and you're so willing to just be like, didn't get it. It's like, didn't get it, we're going for it is one thing, but didn't get it, we're punting with a game that there's no pressure at all. That doesn't seem like a first drive, let's set a tone. That doesn't seem like that at all. That seems like we're afraid of our own shadow on first down, and we don't have any confidence in Brendel, Banks, or Pooney to get any push at all. You can't get 1 freaking yard.
They always get 1 yard on a quarterback sneak. That's what kills me. Like, how do you not go to that play right there? And why do you not go for it? How do you not go for it on 4th and 1 in a game that doesn't matter?
And it's gotten to the
point. What are you afraid
of? Shanahan is now coaching around the roster weaknesses that he has. Late in the game, they get to the most pathetic part of this game. Excuse me if I'm just going on and on, by the way. But the most pathetic part of this game, Niners get to 1st and goal on the 4. 2nd and goal from the 4, pass play. 3rd and goal from the 4, pass play. 4th and goal from the 4, Jake Moody kicking a field goal to go 13-10 into the locker room instead of 14-13. I mean, what are you afraid of? The season is over. What is at stake? Why not go for it? I'd want to go for it there just to be able to say to my guys, hey guys, we're fucking going for it,
Also, I love going for it at the 3-yard line, because even if you don't get it, you can score on the next possession when the other team is at their 3-yard line. Like, you're still in a great spot.
Right. And Shanahan won't pass on 2nd and goal from the 4 because he knows, he won't run on 2nd and goal from the 4, which is a running down, 3rd and goal from the 4. He won't do this because he knows he doesn't have the line to get any push. So it's like
You're right. I'm looking at second and goal from the 3. You got
line.
Purdy throwing the ball away, and then 3rd and goal from the 3. He throws over the middle and gets his pass tipped.
Coach the game the way it's supposed to be played, and if your linemen fucking suck, then show that they suck. But don't coach around your crappy linemen and then back them publicly. You know, I mean, seriously, he coaches around his bad offensive line, and you know, I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like everybody's nice to everybody, everybody loves everybody, but they're not getting the job done. So screw the niceness. And this offensive line is bad. Really bad.
Larry, when we talk about like bringing this team back and like improving the offensive line, to me, that constitutes a philosophy change. And I think one of the reasons I'm pro trade Kyle now is because I don't think he will change his philosophy. I think the way he feels about his offensive line is the way he feels about his offensive line. And he won't lay it out explicitly, but Chris Forrester will and has, and says, why would you invest big capital in guys who don't score touchdowns? He laid it out like that. They tried it once with Mike McGlinchey. I think they regretted it. And they feel like they can get, 85% of what McGlinchey gave him with McKivitz. So maybe Kyle Shanahan will have an epiphany this offseason, but he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who has that kind of introspection. He basically feels like he knows what he's doing. He's smarter than most everyone else. And if it doesn't work out the way he thought it would, it's because someone got hurt or there was bad luck.
They just need to be. I like Kyle Shanahan probably more than you, but I would say this: where's the grit? You don't get to be gritty because you want to be gritty. You have to actually be gritty and actually be gritty. And where's the grit of this team? This team badly needed to draft Zach Frazier out of West Virginia as a center at the end of the first round. Instead, they go with a finesse wide receiver who probably never is going to be their number 1 wide receiver.
And who wasn't the best player available on anyone's board.
Probably wasn't the best wide receiver available at that point in the draft. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, the whole thing's very frustrating, but I would say that I would like to see them be a little bit more gritty. They need to invest. I heard what Sorensen said. I heard what Shanahan said. They, the offensive linemen you can get those guys in any round, except you don't. And you're leaning on kind of a subpar offensive line. What is Jake Brendel? He's a street free agent who's about 280, 285. You need a lot more substance there. What happened to Brock Purdy in this game? I mean, and in the last couple of games, he's getting guys just waltzed into his lap because they can't hold ground at the point of attack on the interior. I mean, Banks' a big-bodied guy, but he has not played well. And Pooney's getting a little tired, and Brendel's getting worked. So they don't even try to run inside anymore because they know they can't.
Let me ask you this: after the last couple of losses, I've heard locally, maybe not even just locally, but like nationally, locally, a lot of NFL football pundits, Niners pundits, they immediately go to defend Brock. Like, sure, Brock just had a 45 quarterback rating, or Brock just had an interception with the game on the line, but it wasn't his fault. He didn't lose the game for the 49ers. And beyond that, he's still going to get all the money that he thought he was going to get. Richard Sherman did it. Lombardi's done it. And not just them. Like, do you feel that way? Is this just like an inevitability about Brock Purdy getting $250 million and there's nothing that he can do to change that this year? Or are you looking at this and saying there's no rush?
Well, first of all, I mean, I don't know that, this is the offseason to do it. I mean, there's either do it or don't do it, come to an agreement on some number. But I don't think you can just kick this can down the road. I don't think you can risk a holdout to your starting quarterback. But to me, Brock Purdy was
Brock has the leverage.
Brock has leverage, I think, to get it done now. I think it's appropriate to get it done now. And it sounds like the 49ers want to get it done now. But at what dollar amount is totally up in the air. Like, the going rate, if you're going to go top of the market, like the Niners put Jimmy at the top of the market, would be $60 million. Does anybody want to pay Brock Purdy $60 million? I don't. I don't think most people want to. And then it's just a matter of how good of a deal can you get. the only thing I would say is, how do you go to Brock Purdy and say, you're not Jalen Hurts, you're not Tua Tagovailoa? He basically is those guys. So I just think that he deserves money in that range, even though I think it's a bloated range. But the whole premise of Brock Purdy as a value proposition is tied to he plays on time, he's accurate, and he's a good decision maker. But now we're starting to see examples of him not being.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, is it is or was?
Well, I mean, like second down. Let's go to the second quarter in this game. Second down. It was 2nd and 10. He gets flushed out of the pocket and he runs around. Well, he shows great movement ability to run, despite the fact he's running for his life because his line's horrible. So that's good, and you're feeling good about Brock. But then he rolls out to his left, gets near the sideline, sets his feet, and you're like, okay, he's setting his feet. And he just throws the duck of ducks into the middle of the field for Deebo Samuel, who tipped it up into the air. That play should have been an interception 10 out of 10 times, whether it was an interception from a defender or on the tip. They lucked out. It was tipped. It was incomplete. But it's that kind of late, across the middle, in a crowd, with nothing on it, with, over the receiver's head. That kind of poor decision-making we're seeing more of from Brock Purdy, and that's alarming. And that's a big part of his value proposition. He's not the same guy if he doesn't make smart decisions with the football. And we've seen him have less on his ball and make some really questionable decisions in the last month. So is that a product of having to run too much? Is it a product of having to, spin all these plates on all these fingers because your receivers are slow, don't separate, your line's no good, pressure's in your face? It sounds like Shanahan, when I've asked him about situations where I felt like Brock was too aggressive, defends Brock publicly and says, no, he wasn't too aggressive. So I think he's very much in Brock's corner and feels that Brock is not being surrounded by enough. That's the kind of the vibe I get.
He's the best tight end in football. That's a pretty good start. Juwan Jennings is pretty good. My heart doesn't break for Brock Purdy. I think what you just said in about 3 minutes in a very polite and analytically correct way is he's having a bad year. He's not having a good year. And you said, like, well, if Tua is making this much money and Jalen Hurts is making this much money, then Brock is better than them or was better than them. He's not better than them this season, and that's the crux of the issue. Do you go with 2022, 2023 Brock, or do you go with 2024 Brock? He's still 25 years old. He hasn't played that much football in the NFL. It's hard to say what his future holds. Is he going to bounce back next year and be an MVP candidate again? Or is he going to have the slow fade like Colin Kaepernick and Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. That's why I would really not want to give him the 60 million, whatever 4-year extension. I'd like to see another year. And if that upsets him, man, sorry. The Niners need to stop giving away huge extensions to keep players happy. That's how they got in the issue with McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and Ayuk.
You can't have this guy hold out, though. You can't go into camp with, well, we don't. Brock's not here. We sure hope as hell we're going to get it done. And
you can sign. You can sign another quarterback. You could bring in Kirk Cousins once he gets cut for $1 million.
I mean, that's the other problem here. It's not about Brock Purdy's God. It's about Brock Purdy's the best you got, and there ain't really anybody out there that I see that you can get that I know for sure is better than Brock Purdy. Now, there are guys that look good in their situation, but Sam Darnold, let's be totally honest about that. As much as I like Sam Darnold and the way he's playing this year, he's not going to be able to bring Jefferson or Addison or Hawkinson. Those guys aren't coming. And, that line ain't coming and that defense ain't coming. So I just think that Darnold would not be as good next year throwing to JJ and Pearsall and Kittle as he was this year throwing to his receivers in Minnesota.
So you're saying Darnold would struggle on this team next year?
I think Darnold would struggle more on this team than he did this year.
Does that mean that you think Purdy will struggle on this team next year?
I think the only advantage that Purdy has, Grant, on Darnold is that Purdy's got mobility. So behind this line, I mean, you saw it this year. Brock is
but if we expect Purdy running for his life again and struggling again, then what are we paying for? Not we. It's not our money.
Yeah, I mean, here's one thing that bothers me about Purdy right now. That in the first half, I saw the stat this afternoon. Brock Purdy's 4th in the NFL in most tipped balls. he's getting a lot of passes tipped. And
I think he's number one in like
concerning.
tip frequency in terms of like per attempt.
Yeah, I mean, so that to me is concerning. But I also kind of feel like I do feel like he's the best quarterback they have. I also feel like it's a real risk to get rid of Brock Purdy because I think that's pretty obvious that he's probably their hardest working offensive player.
So sure, but isn't there some middle ground between like getting rid of Purdy and giving him $250 million?
Sure. Well, there should be. There should be.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is, I mean, even if I'm Brock, okay, let's talk about this. Let's say Brock was on this stream with us. If you said, Brock, what's the perfect amount of money? Well, the perfect amount of money is not the most because Dak Prescott's got no rings. And guess what? None of the guys who make $50 million have won a ring. None.
Right.
So
to me, it's like, Brock, isn't $45 million a year? I don't even know if he's worth that, but isn't $45 million a year enough? Or do you have to get 60? Because if you're one of the things that was off-putting about Ayuk is like, what matters to you is how much you're paid more than the team. It's the ultimate team sport. And if you're putting your individual ego above the team, then what kind of teammate are you going to be down the next few years?
Yeah,
I don't want Brock to be that kind of guy.
It comes down to the two people negotiating. Kyle Strong in the Nashville-based agent of Brock Purdy, and Parag Marathe, the Niners' chief negotiator. I believe he's still the chief negotiator. So, I mean, it really comes down to, do these guys get together and say, hey, you know what? The top of the market's 60, but we don't want to pay you 60. We'd like to pay you something that we feel like we can build a winning team around. How about we pay you closer to 45? And I think you're going to hear on Kyle Strong's side, he's probably going to say, hey, you know what? My guy's worth top of the market money. How about 65? And I think it's going to, if this is done the way I think it should be done, Kyle's agent should ask for 65 and Parag should offer 45 and they should settle on 55. And I think that's the way it's going to go down. If I had to predict it, Grant, that's what I would predict. I agree with you, though, 55. In that I agree with you that that's a ton of money. But, I mean, I'm watching Cowherd the other day saying, I can't pay a guy $50 million if there's ifs. And I can understand why he says that. But are there not ifs about Trevor Lawrence? Are there not ifs about Tua? Are there not ifs about Prescott? I mean, there's ifs about all these guys.
Yeah,
so
do you want to be the Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Cowboys? Or like,
right.
is that the model of success in the NFL?
Well, and you know, we're going to find out. We're going to find out how Brock feels about his salary in relation to, winning a championship. Because, you know, if you basically said to him, what's perfect? What's your perfect scenario? Would his perfect scenario be that he's the highest paid quarterback in the league? Or would his perfect scenario be that he's making $45 million a year, the equivalent of Patrick Mahomes, and the 49ers take that extra $20 million and spread it around the roster and build him out an offensive line? I mean, you know, it's none of those greenbacks are going to protect your butt when Chris Jones is after you. So you're going to need some linemen. So that you got to kind of factor that in as well if you're Brock.